So, welcome to the We Are CC podcast. This is episode 32. 32 episodes of these. It's phenomenal. I love it. I'm joined this week by Jay Winter, Jared Woodard, config_JSON, and Mr. or Mr. MM on Reddit. So I guess it's Mr. How you guys feeling this week? The market's holding kind of steady, kind of indecisive as always. How we feeling?
Price action is just bad.
Price action is just bad. Are you
They're
looking?
just ranging.
You want more volatility, or what do you want?
More, obviously. I mean, we've been ranging between 90.2 and 90.4 for the whole weekend.
Yeah, it's not so bad to
It's
some
likely
people.
with the-
What's good to see. What's good to see that the price action is boring, actually, in my opinion, because despite the macro environment, we're not seeing massive sell-offs, which is great, and we're seeing all the news about various institutions going in harder, changing course. We have I think it's was it Goldman Sachs? I think it's Goldman Sachs recently just did an about face on their crypto strategy, right, or their position on crypto, and a lot of underlying demand. I think that's all good, right? And I think that potentially, and have said this before, but it sets the stage for a potential decoupling event, right? Where we decouple price action away from Wall Street and equities markets in general. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm liking it, to be honest. I like the boring. Sorry, config, but I like the boring.
I mean, that's not bad, but in the moment, there are people that start thinking that this decorrelation is just, Bitcoin is just gonna lag and dump, a few weeks later.
Yeah, the possibility
Yeah,
that
just
that crypto's kind of a lagging mirror of the equities market. That is possible. But there is something to be said as well. If you look at the general strength of Bitcoin, using Bitcoin again as a proxy for the larger crypto market, the amount of strength we've seen from the dollar index. If you had asked me last year when if the dollar ever reached this level, what price I think Bitcoin would be at, I probably would have given you some ridiculous number like 10K. Now, config, I know you know this one, but looking at the money supply, so I was looking, I think actually I posted it into the reminder post for this, but looking at the money supply, if we go and look at the current price of Bitcoin in 2017 terms, it's actually priced around 13,000 right now. Does that feel a little bit more realistic than 19K given the current macro?
That's an interesting perspective for sure.
Yeah,
it's really hard to kind of qualify where crypto should be priced at right now, just given how much of the past few years has really been very unprecedented, certainly during the life of crypto. That money supply, the easy markets.
money supply really is a fairer way to see where's price,
Mm-hmm.
If you compare, you're like 11K, and looking at the chart right now, and this there at the 2019 top right now,
Sitting around the 2019 top, you're saying is where the price is?
Yeah, that's where the money supply price is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2019 was kind of like that almost bull run that didn't quite turn into a bull run.
I think COVID kind of shook that up a bit.
Yeah, well, you see, it almost looked like it was starting to lose strength beforehand and then start to recover, and then COVID. Yeah. This has been a wild few years. Hard to believe it's been a few years now. So let's move on to our first topic. Unless you guys have anything else you wanted to add about Bitcoin, about the macro, about Gary Gensler or JPal, all of our favorite people.
I want to back up what Mr. shared there. From what I've seen, and please correct me where I'm wrong there, it seems like some of the biggest players are getting interested in Bitcoin as there's this doom and gloom and as there's this looming regulation, which we know is coming in one way or another.
I guess I will add something there. almost completely unrelated to kind of macro and general market conditions, but I hung out with a guy who started working at the Ethereum Foundation recently, um, in the cryptography group. Like he's working on privacy for staking nodes and how to enforce that cryptographically. And he said that they have about 95 people just at the Ethereum Foundation working on, cryptography to advance the state of the art so that private staking is feasible and it's not going to run into compliance issues with the United States government. And so I'm hyped up in general. I'm always optimistic, but meeting with people like that who are like, spending 50, 60 hours a week, building math to make the systems more unstoppable. Like, yeah, I mean, up and down week to week, but there's so many. I get optimistic speaking with people like that, so I'm still hyped up from hanging out with this guy yesterday.
Very awesome. Yeah, that's a nice bright pill.
There's always a lot. Oh,
Yeah, and then you see you have some of the biggest players on Wall Street looking to open up their own crypto exchanges, and if there was an underlying bullish sentiment, right, then it really makes you wonder, like, why are they doing that now? Why are they snatching up crypto, right? I think there was a massive crypto purchase by one of the banks recently. I can't remember who it was, but all these signs point to just kind of like an expectation of eventual turnaround. Like when, who knows, right? But the expectation, the market seems to be expecting, the big boys seem to be expecting that once we get out of this crypto winter, that is the time for true wealth to be created, right? And for better or worse, right, there's some of the smartest money out there, and if they're banking on it, literally, I think that's a positive sign.
Yeah, we're continuing to see accumulation. I mean, in the simplest of metrics, when you look at supply of Bitcoin on exchanges, I mean, that continues to drop. There's definitely a big money interest in it because we know it's really not retail driving that. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the average person is not buying Bitcoin right now.
The supply has been going down since like 69K. So you can say it's the bottom because of that.
I've heard anecdotally that there's some retail interest in like the Netherlands and UK and these Western and Germany where like there's even more painful inflation happening right now than there is in the US, that people are looking for other places to put their money.
True.
I think that not to No, just not to beat it to death, but I mean, we're seeing we're seeing all the ingredients that are needed for that decoupling event, right? And starting to view the crypto majors, at least like BTC and ETH, as kind of a flight to safety, as a safe haven in these crazy macro conditions. And just kind of a quick example is, last week, what we saw interestingly in the UK was with the policy decisions that happened out there and the rate hikes, right? The pound tanked against the dollar. And what you usually see in that kind of an environment is a huge spike in volume in foreign currency exchange markets, in FX markets, right? But what we saw instead was the volume on FX markets in the UK cratered against the pound. But where we saw volume massively spike is on the GBP BTC pair, which means that you have folks in the UK, instead of going into the pound or derivatives, they were going into BTC in the UK. And so that kind of starts to set the stage for BTC being a safe haven. And I really like that. That's all I wanted to say. Sorry, I'll stop talking about it.
No, this is all good news. There's a lot of interesting developments. And I think every little thing like this, maybe by itself isn't a huge event yet, but it adds up over time. People hear more about it. People begin to trust the technology, the space more. It's all positive.
Oh, I guess I do have one other Bitcoin price note. There's like a chart you can find which shows price performance versus month of the year. And October is like 7 out of 9 previous Octobers are very positive price action for Bitcoin. And November is like 6 out of 9 as well. So for whatever reason, Bitcoin tends to do well in the kind of fall, early winter time period. So we'll see how that plays out this year. The one big exception is 2018 when price just got crushed around mid-November. But generally, the end of the year is pretty good for Bitcoin. So that's also in our favor.
Sir, are you spreading
Let's go October.
the October rumor? Is that what we're expecting?
I mean, it's not a rumor. It's just a fact that 7 out of 9 Octobers have been like generally very green for Bitcoin.
Hey, I need you
and
to
even
just. Mhm.
it's even the best month for tech stocks from what I've seen.
Can someone send a memo to JPal and just let them know, hey, back off. It's October.
Yeah, why not? It's a good idea.
No problem. Let me just pick up the phone real quick. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Yeah, they just attend to the next FOMC. And
just pop in. But I live in the DC area. I always wonder, maybe I can make an appointment. I don't know. Can you do that? I have no idea. The first topic we're going to cover, we're actually going to. What's that? I'll let you know if it works.
Oh no, sorry. I was just saying, let us know. Yeah.
I'm actually going to try. You know what? That'll be a fun experiment. Can I get a meeting with the Fed chair for any reason? I'll think of a good reason. So for our first topic, I think we neglected NFTs.
The reason will.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The reason will be higher puppy. Yes.
I think we neglected NFTs a bit last week, and so we're going to kick it off this week. We're going to be talking about what's potentially the oldest. It depends on who you ask, either the oldest or top 3 oldest NFTs on Ethereum. What's interesting about this is you have these folks that are interested in historic contracts, historic data, historic whatever it may be. In this case, it was a gentleman that was just digging around for the first time, looking for historic NFT contracts, and he found one that had effectively launched right with Ethereum, and it's a predecessor to the ENS. ENS being the Ethereum name service, a thing that you see everyone use where they get Mr.ETH. That's an actual address on Ethereum that you can link to your wallets and link to contracts and things. Anyways, the engineer that launched the very first Ethereum smart contract, from what I understand, his name was Linagee, Linagee. He also had made something, I guess we're calling it Linagee domains, or now they're kind of calling it OG domains, where you can create mint and ENS. Now, because it's historic, people are speculating that there's potentially a lot of value around these, that they may be selling for a lot. And if you haven't been keeping up on ENS, some of them sell for a lot of money. In a few cases, real companies have even invested in ENS. So this is just called a little bit of alpha, although it's lagging by a few days. But you can actually go and mint these still. I think about 100,000 have been minted so far. It costs only about $1, and that includes gas. It is cheap, so you can mint whatever you want. Mint your name, mint your mom's name, mint my name, whatever you want. Mint it. Just if you're looking for the information on it, I don't have the website, but I would just go on Twitter or maybe Reddit and look up Linagee domains, and you'll probably find what you're looking for. But I don't know. Have you guys gotten any? Any of you explored it?
I mean, besides the fact that
I only have one because of you guys.
Yeah, you minted one for me. That's the only reason I have one.
Yeah, I did. It caught.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
we needed one for each of us, and besides that,
Yeah, well, you got to keep the talent happy, right? I invested $5 in that. It was big money, but you never know.
We owe you.
You never know. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun to check out. I minted way more than I should, but it like $1 or less per mint, whatever. I'm not shilling. I don't know if anyone makes. Actually, I don't think anyone makes money off of those. So don't take this as a shill at all. Just take it as a fun little discovery And speaking of historic NFTs, another one that's about to come out, if you're into these kind of things, there's definitely a strong subset of the crypto community that's into historic stuff. There's another one coming called OPP, and this is Operation Pre-Punk. Apparently, there was another contract hidden out there that lets you create PFPs, custom PFPs, faces that predates CryptoPunks. And that's another one. Hey, if you're into NFTs, check it out. Maybe it's something you're interested in. I think it's a free mint, but you have to hold another NFT to get it. So, anyways, cool stuff. But I think we're ready to try a non NFT topic. So, this was kind of wild news.
Yeah,
Did you guys hear about Elon's plan to charge people, or his idea, I should say, to charge people per tweet in Dogecoin?
Tell me more.
Yeah, he was exchanging messages where he talked about the idea of, I think it was like the idea of charging people like 0.1 Doge per tweet. And it just seems wild to me. But I guess when you think about it in the grand
It
scheme of
really
things,
does.
it really would add up to a lot of money. I don't know how many tweets go out a day, but I mean, was he just looking for another way to profit or maybe boost Doge? I don't know.
To me, it seems like, because I've always wanted something like this. Like, I do moderation in a lot of areas and communities, and bots and spam are a headache. And I'm like, this is a way to judo move that into an asset. You want to come in and spam my server? Cool. You're going to pay me for the privilege, and then I'm going to delete your stuff anyway and keep the money. But the way you can do, but what you can do is, okay, you send so much per tweet or whatever, but you get it back in like a day or whatever, That's one option, and that way, if this is an old idea. If you ever used Sphinx Chat, which was using Lightning, Bitcoin's Lightning network, it gave you this option. You could create a channel and then set a price in sats per message. And then if it got deleted, then the server keeps the sats. But if it doesn't get deleted, it's just a bond. You get it back, and you can set it. You can set the parameters yourself, an hour, a day, whatever. Personally, I think it's a pretty cool way to help with these kinds of problems for moderation. But I totally understand where some people can be like, this is either just an extra headache or maybe even possibly a financial burden. But then again, you could have, let's say you've got a really important channel, you're running a DAO and you're having conversations, and you don't want anyone to waste anyone's time, but you also want everyone to pay attention to what's in there. You can have a pretty high premium, 25 cents, 50 cents, $1, $5 for someone to send a message in that channel. And it's like, okay, you're paying for the privilege, for the time to get everyone's attention. I like it. I like these options.
I could see the game theory here, basically turning Twitter into a blockchain social media platform, refactoring it for the blockchain. And his theory potentially is that would either, cut out the bots and spam, or add value. I did some quick math. It's saying that right now you're seeing an average of around 870 million tweets a day. And with Doge at 6 cents, that would mean that total revenue per day would be around 5.2 million, or per year, that would be almost $2 billion. Assuming Doge holds this level and assuming you have about that level of tweeting. That's kind of wild when you think about it.
I think it's just way too much friction for the vast majority of Twitter users to ever even even if there was a built-in wallet and you could buy Doge in the wallet, I still think it would just cause too many users to run away. But it's a cool idea, and I love Dogecoin.
I think you're right.
Twitter will love it. Crypto Twitter will love it, but
of course,
Twitter will just... The normie Twitter, which is 99% of Twitter, will just hate it.
Yeah, I think Jay Wintern's right that it'll be too much friction for a lot of normies.
But it could be, as long as it's invisible, right? As long as that process is invisible to the user, it could work, I think. Are they going to charge 1 Doge per message? Maybe not. Maybe you load up your wallet and you buy a bunch of messages at once for a discount, some stuff like that. But I could really see this working, no joke.
And what you do is you roll it out on a small scale. You have it an opt-in thing, and you can have it such that I can filter my things so that only paid for tweets show up at the top. And if it limits, I don't mind paying for this. If I put out like maybe 2 or 3 tweets a day, if that's fractions of pennies possibly or less, or even if it is pennies, who cares? But then if I don't have to see any ads for that, rock on.
Yeah, that might be an interesting way to try and roll something like that out.
Yeah. That's what I want. Give me the option. Let me opt in.
Yeah, it would be like 6,000th of a cent or something. I have to do the math, but it's not much. It's Doge is 6 cents right now. So now you might be in trouble if Doge has another massive rally. Suddenly, it's not so cheap to play that game. But you're right. There's probably a circumstance where you could make this make sense. But there has to probably be like an opt-in, opt-out version, and these almost have to like coexist with the traditional Twitter, because I mean, there's just a lot of people that aren't going to really dig this or buy into it. A lot of free users of Twitter anyways.
Yeah. You gotta think about that option. And for the people that don't want to touch crypto, you've really got to consider a user experience that they're going to be down with.
Yeah, so let us know in the comments. I'm curious to see if anyone would be willing to do this. And let's say you potentially get something like you were just saying, hey, if I am in the paid model, maybe I get more impression, I get more access to people's feeds. Like we'll put my post above others that aren't paying the Doge fee to post.
And I think there are some there's Twetch, which I think uses BSV. And so if you want to look at like how have these models played out before in practice, these marketplaces, you can go and research Sphinx Chat. It does this. And Twetch, I think, uses BSV.
Interesting.
And so, yeah.
I didn't know anything used BSV as a platform.
There's also Steam. There was an old social network.
That's right.
Token, Steam, which like forked into Hive, which came up when we were doing the Twitter Spaces with MEXC about like social fi tokens. But yeah, I there was actually a proposal, I think, from a guy who was at Reddit and now he's at the Ethereum Foundation to do like kind of make people put up a bond in moons. For making any post on our cryptocurrency. And then the creator of the post has to put up some bond, and there's a link that gets stickied as the top comment, and other people can challenge it as being like off topic or against the rules. And if it's removed by the moderators, then I guess his bond gets like burned or something. But it's like way too complicated to try and do that for every single our cryptocurrency post.
But I love these options. Like there's DAOs I want to play with, DAO structures I want to experiment with on test nets, and I want like Discord servers where holding an NFT gives you access to a place, or maybe chatting in there costs something. And then like how can we make connection and
we have a really kind of unique community token with Reddit Moons, and I think that could be used effectively for maybe like the coin test posts or certain categories. But I think even for our users who are relatively savvy and understand these things, like trying to enforce it on every post is just too much.
Oh, I agree. You've got to give a place for people to get used to this stuff and then opt in.
Yeah, so for our next topic, this is another one of those that just keeps coming up again and again over time. It looks like Anonymous is going after the Bored Apes. So if you haven't heard about this, basically they posted their usual anonymous stuff, accusing them of I believe they're accusing them of being racist. I haven't actually watched it. I can't open the link because I think it'll play sound. Let me see if I can. Yeah. Now, this is an old allegation. The community's responded to it. I believe there's even an outstanding lawsuit or court case between Yuga Labs and the gentleman that originated the accusations. The conspiracy theory about Yuga being some secret racist Nazi ideology. Here's my thought. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. Sometimes anonymous is cool, but you know what I really wish they would do is go after like the really bad people that make all of our lives miserable. I don't know. I mean, maybe affect the war with Russia, or maybe go, steal records from Congress on all the insider trading that's going on. You know what I mean? Like these things would dramatically improve the quality of my life and probably everyone listening. Accusing Bored Apes of being racist. I mean, if they are, then of course it should be called out, but I feel like there's much bigger fish to fry right now.
Well, and okay, big deal here. How do you know it's anonymous? Like, how do you know it's the same entity? I could go and create a post and claim to be anonymous, and share this up. Are they signing something with cryptographic keys to prove that every message comes from the same organization or entity or things like that? Or is it the CIA or some other 3-letter agency who's quote unquote anonymous?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have some official outlets that they use. How they're organized behind that. And how they decide to post things, I couldn't tell you. But yeah. I mean, you do have a point there. I'm just, thinking, and I saw some of the comments on Reddit. I mean, there's some really fair comments. First one is, hey, while you're at it, can you find Kwon? People are looking for him. And then another one, freeze Putin's and associates assets. That would be cool. I don't know that they could do that, but just a lot of wild ideas, and I always think that there's been some cool stuff over the years, though.
Yeah.
Or maybe help me fix my tax bill. Can you reduce the burden on that? So here's news that we've heard before. Solana went down again. I don't even have anything to say on that. I don't know. Do you guys?
Oh, is that news? I don't know if that's considered news.
I think it's happened.
Isn't it just October now, guys?
8 times in the past year, at least, I think.
I guess the only, I mean, I don't have any comment except that activity is low right now. So, I mean, good luck to those guys getting their shit together before the next rush of activity happens, whenever that may be.
Yeah, but does it really stop them? I mean, does Solana suffer consequences for going down? I don't really think so.
Not so much to date, but I think, if their system is not a lot more robust, then I don't think they can expect any continued growth.
That would make sense to me, but it takes the market to actually respond to that.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see the data. The thing I always think is a guy that's active in DeFi, for the NFT side, I'm not as worried. If my chain goes down and I'm waiting to buy something or sell something, okay, fine. I'm not going to die. But if I have an open position on say some sort of decentralized protocol, and I'm worried about the current market price action, and I can't access it for say hours or even a day, that would be a deal breaker. I don't think I would want to have any critical positions, open on that chain. I would use something else. I mean, Mister, you're the DeFi guy. Would you feel comfortable?
What do you use the chain for?
What's that?
No, absolutely not. So what would you use that chain for then, if it's not for critical purposes, right? That severely reduces the number of use cases for that chain. And I tend to agree with you. Like, what if you need what if you're about to get liquidated on a leverage position and you need to cover that and you just can't cover it? What does that mean? Does that mean that because the chain goes down, you don't get liquidated, so you don't have to worry, or as soon as the chain goes back up, you get liquidated in retro? Like that concerns me a lot from a usability perspective. But I'm talking strictly from a DeFi perspective, right? And using that example of having a leverage, say, perpetual future open, like that would cause a lot of lost sleep for me.
It would. Yeah. I've had to endure that with the centralized exchanges. Everyone remembers peak bull market at times when there would be some big red candles and then like half the exchanges go down, like Binance is down, Coinbase is down, Kraken's down, and your position's still open and you're just sweating it. I don't like that feeling at all. And I've lost money that way. So I can only imagine, people like me that have been kind of, have lost out because of that. I'm not going to take any big money onto Solana. I do respect its community and its, potential. It is a very fast chain. But there's some issues that I think you really got to work out before you engender the kind of trust that people have in some of the other chains that are very active.
Well, that they're right there. You just mentioned the foundational problem. I think for Solana, they have a lot of kind of tough decisions to make. It's the way they've branded themselves and the way they've scaled for high TPS has been literally just throwing centralized hardware at it, right? Number one, that doesn't scale. And number two, it gets really expensive. But if you're going to change that model, you're going to have to reboot the chain and just the way it's architected. And then that harms the brand as far as, having to admit a mistake, potentially, if you want to call it a mistake, in how it was architected originally. But, at the end of the day, though, right, they do have super fast TPS, right? And that transactions per second. And there is some use there, right? And fair enough, there are competitors with, something on the same order of magnitude in terms of number of transactions they can process per second. But maybe it just needs to be, this is kind of a moment where Solana needs to find itself and understand who is its target audience and what its core use cases are. Because for me, DeFi is not a use case on Solana, right? And so if I were the Solana team, I would be thinking through, which verticals, which markets do I go after? What use cases do I really want to focus on? And then we start using, turning the brand towards those specific use cases and become kind of that dedicated chain for this kind of dedicated activity, whatever it is. For me, that's the way I'd be looking at it. But I think they have, there's a big problem, right, in terms of reliability that's not easily solvable. And so if I were betting man, I wouldn't bet that would change or there would be a fix, quote unquote, a fix.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at the amount of value locked into DeFi protocols on Solana, I would have thought it'd be a little bit higher. I bet in terms of NFTs, they're ranked higher. But from the DeFi side, they're ranked number 6. That they're under Polygon, Avalanche, BSC, and Tron. And actually, it's interesting when you look at the pure cash value invested on these chains, and this is kind of slightly off topic, but very interesting. Binance actually fell to 3rd place. Tron is in 2nd place right now. Tron only has, according to DeFi Llama, 10 protocols versus Binance's 474. Granted, many of those are probably now dead projects from last year or the year before, but it's a pretty wild number.
Tron, yeah, I would take those numbers with a big spoonful of salt, honestly. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who get involved in DeFi and kind of GameFi stuff via Binance Smart Chain, but I don't trust anything going on either of those networks. I mean, they're both, I think, pretty much completely centralized. But I was going to add that I saw recently that's kind of somewhat related to the discussion of Solana, that I believe Arbitrum 1 now has more total value locked than Avalanche, C-Chain. So it'll be interesting to see, as there's more capacity and liquidity on Optimism and Arbitrum 1 and Arbitrum Nova and stuff like that, if some of these ETH killers kind of really start to fade in value.
Yeah, I mean, Ethereum obviously is in first, and it's a very distant first. According to DeFi Llama, $31.5 billion is locked up on Ethereum. The next closest with Tron is 5.8 billion. So quite a big difference there. And that's Ethereum not counting any of its layer 2s. That's not counting Polygon, Arbitrum, or, Optimism, any of those others. You can add at least a few billion more from those as well. So I would say Ethereum has almost about a $30 billion lead over any competitors right now. And that's pretty significant in this bear market. I just don't see Tron is probably performing at peak right now, given the market conditions. And I just don't see where that money would come from to unless Justin Sun just comes in and dumps his personal, savings into it.
Honestly, I think that's probably at least part of the story.
Well, there is some truth there. Yeah, Justin Sun does have a lot of money to kind of throw around the space. Just for like,
is Tron a native chain, or is that a Binance Smart chain?
Yeah, no, it's like a layer 1 Ethereum clone that launched with an ICO in 2017, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I believe it did actually. The ICO was done as an ERC20, similar to VeChain and many others at the time, but they've been their own layer 1 for at least 5 years, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And it was kind of a quiet performer. It really wasn't doing much until after the Luna meltdown, and they stole some of that market share. I say stole. I mean, they picked it up off the floor. And some of the investors clearly moved over to there because they were really hyping their algo stable coin and similar types of investments at that time. It'll be interesting to see if it holds up. And hopefully if the US and others don't ban algo stable coins too. That's definitely a concern and a possibility. Let's see. What are we talking about? Oh, yes. Our favorite. So here, show of hands from you guys. How many of you actually used Robinhood before for stocks or anything?
I have used it. I have used it.
I have never used
take
it.
A shower now, but I'll admit it.
I did create an account. I didn't really do much with it. But yeah, so Robinhood fired a quarter of their employees, 25% of their employees. I just think it's there's not enough Doge in this world, or GME in this world, I guess, to pump their profits here. But you're probably going to see a lot more of this. And that's not the only place, right? I mean, we've seen over the past year, a lot of these larger companies and that, especially the ones that grew into the final phase of that bull market, either rescinding offers, cutting workforce, or just flat out imploding.
I think OpenSea has to be the biggest, craziest example of that. In my mind, I know somebody who works there personally, and they were like employee 70 in December last year, and by April they were up to around 400 employees. And I think now, after multiple rounds of layoffs, they're like back under 200 employees. They're like all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that on my feed a lot, where you see folks coming from these different big companies, whether it's Coinbase or OpenSea or whoever, and they're like, hey, looking for work if anyone's looking. And usually the community is pretty supportive. Usually folks, you'll see hundreds of comments and replies, and that makes me feel good. There is a lot of work. Even in this bear market, there is a lot of work in Web3. It's just a matter of, going out looking for it and having the right kind of qualifications. But, if you're coming from one of those brands, I'm sure you have the qualifications. So Do Kwon, I know we talk about him every week. I just get a kick out of the post that was on Reddit this past week, where they said he went to North Korea. I don't think that's true. I haven't actually heard anything. Have you guys heard seen anything? I mean, is this guy just like completely ghosting everyone now?
I saw on Twitter that he was tweeting back and forth with Eric Wall or whatever about getting lunch in Singapore, I think, last week.
Yeah, I mean, I tried looking just to see. There's not much information right now, which makes sense. Law enforcement isn't, they're not going to give you all the information. I did find one article on it, and I kind of feel like this. I just can't imagine, as desperate as he might be to avoid, say getting arrested, I can't imagine he would go to North Korea. But the fact that it was trending on RCC made the headlines on one crypto website called Crypto Basic. And this is how fake news starts. Do you guys remember last year when there was the fake news about Walmart? Was it like integrating Litecoin or something? And it was all completely fake, but someone carefully managed that press release and that news to do a pump and dump on Litecoin. This is like, you probably don't remember because you guys probably don't play with Litecoin. Yeah.
No, it doesn't surprise me.
No, yeah, I do remember. Yeah.
legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes it's not intentional. Sometimes it's Reddit posted something, it goes trending, and these sites are like, that sounds like good news. I'm sure Do Kwon went to North Korea. So I'm just gonna post that up. Yeah.
It would explain a lot, wouldn't it?
I mean, of all the countries to pick, I would believe Russia, maybe, because that's where Snowden went. Snowden, who now may get conscripted and sent to Ukraine to fight.
Shoot.
But
right, but I mean, if we're going down the conspiracy rabbit hole, then what if he was a North Korean agent this whole time, and Terra was part of the strategy?
I think he's like in Dubai. I think he's in Dubai.
Dubai, maybe. Yeah. Come up with your best conspiracy theory. Whoever comes up with the best one, I'll give you a moon or two. I don't even know what moon's worth right now.
He's on his yacht, so nobody can catch him. He's in international waters.
Yeah,
and he'll stay there forever.
That's where I'm at.
On his yacht.
An island out in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, it's a way to do it. Or
because you can find jurisdictions out there that will be very friendly if you bring the cash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the things I wrote about. You got to look at the extradition treaties that they have with South Korea and find one that isn't going to extradite him for whatever crimes he's accused of. Did you guys see that one person they opened the trust wallet and I saw the screenshot. They owed $16 billion, or rather they had negative 16 billion. Have you ever woken up and that's happened to you? Like, oops.
Maybe they spent that.
I've seen my centralized portfolio spike to something like that right before I refreshed and then it fixed itself, but nothing to that level. I mean, that's crazy.
Oh, really? I've had you can get that in MetaMask. You've probably seen that in MetaMask where like you switch between chains, and if you have like, say you have like 500 Matic or Polygon, and then you switch to ETH, and then it's like, hey, you have 500 ETH. Yeah, I showed the wife that once. She got excited for a minute, and then when it updated, she got pissed.
I guess I have one story from long ago that's kind of like that, where I was using Cryptsy in 2014 probably, and I mean Bitcoin was like $200 or something. I had maybe like one Bitcoin on Cryptsy, which eventually exit scammed, as many exchanges did back then. But like I made a trade, and all of a sudden my balance was like negative 42 Bitcoin, and then I like refreshed and it was like positive 75 Bitcoin, and then I like tried to hurry up and withdraw 75 Bitcoin, and then I got like an angry email from customer support, and then I took my funds off of Cryptsy, and I was like, oh, I'm never using this shitty exchange again, which saved me from losing any money.
Yeah, I had to I actually met Big Vern for a short spell just before all that went down. If people remember, like he exit scammed, and there was some
ran away to China.
DOJ was after him, yeah. And then in order to get my funds out, because some coins were like wouldn't work conveniently because they were trying to keep people from getting the funds out, but you could use Doge, and so I had to sell everything, turn it into Doge, and get that Doge the hell off of the account. And I did just in time.
Yeah, back in the Wild West days, you just never know what's going to happen with your Bitcoin or your Doge, apparently. Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things, like those horror stories you hear about people like, I had, like 1 million Doge and then I lost it, or it's on a computer I never found. I'm glad I've never done that. I mean, I've lost a little bit, like I locked myself out of my, or forgot the info, I guess, to my Cosmos wallet, but it's not life-changing money, so I could live with myself. Have you guys ever done that? Anyone?
I've lost money with some exchanges exit scamming, because that was just so common in 2014, 15, that like, I don't know, it was like, every other exchange was going out of business every 3 weeks. So I probably lost like, a few $100, because you quickly learn like, I mean, like, okay, Coinbase is one thing, but like everywhere else, you have to be very cautious. So that's probably the most I've lost.
No, I don't think I've lost anything significant. There's about $100 worth of Monero. I need to double check. I'm like, did I send that or did I lose it? So there's a question mark there.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Going through. I just love going. There's just like so much fun stuff. Oh yeah, this. I must hate that we have to even go over this, but Kim Kardashian finally got punished. Now, given her net worth, I don't even know what's her net worth. Is she a billionaire? I think she's a billionaire, right?
Yeah, she's a billionaire. Legit.
Yeah.
Yep.
But she got fined $1 million to settle the SEC charges for promoting the crypto scams with the ETH Max and who knows what else on her Instagram. But this is a thing with these punishments. Same thing the banks do. If they make more on whatever scam that they did than they pay in fees, what's the point? Is the SEC basically just saying, "Hey, split your profits with me. I want a cut," and then next time give me another cut. I mean, it's not going to stop her.
I mean, isn't that what the government is for? Sorry, just had to go there.
Like it was
what government does.
I mean, if they're so concerned about some naughty, trady kind of stuff, could they investigate Congress and they're outperforming Buffett?
Yeah, to be fair, I do think they're doing some there, but like in terms of celebrities and going out, I mean, there's so many worse actually than Kim. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the Kardashians have they're kind of an annoying family in some ways, but if I was going to pick a list of like celebrities or people in the space that I would go after as the SEC, I don't think she would even be on the list. I mean, just think about how many much bigger scammers, rug pullers, whatever, but they go after her. I mean, at least
they wanted to make an example. She's a big name. And that's another reason.
If
there should be some precedent for a countersuit that's like, you're just going after me to make an example because I have a name. Like there's some kind of like, there's something dirty about that. Like because of who I am, but you're not going to go after like politicians. You're like, they have positions of trust and they're sworn to be like, on the level with this stuff. I'm like, it's Kim Kardashian. She's a celebrity. She is a walking billboard. She is a walking brand and market, and it's for money. Everyone knows that. End of the day,
Yeah, that's true. She is arguably one of the more famous people in the world. So it does probably put a message out there. I don't know it's going to stop degens from chasing things called ETH Max, but maybe a few people will second guess themselves, or maybe some influencers will start to behave a little bit better.
I mean, yeah, but if the regulators themselves are worse than the people that they're regulating, why do I care?
Yeah, I thought the only thing that I took away from that story is Gary Gensler's little office hours video on Twitter is just gross and patronizing, and I don't need him telling me what I should listen to Kim Kardashian about, dude. Like, especially when there's so many larger issues with insider trading by Congress people and everything else. Like, fuck that guy. Excuse my French.
I mean, yeah, it was like the entirety of 2021 was just like institutions and banks versus us retail traders. How many charges, how many investigations, how many things were open on any of that? Nada. Okay, very little. They just keep getting away with it. Yeah. His videos, I will agree with you. His videos are very patronizing. And for someone that supposedly comes somewhat from the space and was supposedly very informed on the space, I don't know what his deal is, but he really is.
Yeah, that was my impression. Like, he was this professor who taught about Bitcoin coming in, and that was all I knew about him. And I feel like it's just knowing only that information, everything that's happened since then has been a big disappointment, I think.
Yeah. I mean, someone handed him his playbook, and now he's just singing along to the tune.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that probably.
Here, we're going to give you this position. This is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Bought and souls.
It is.
Well, before he started off as a professor, right? And there's this famous set of videos, clips of him, doing a lecture on blockchain technology and stuff like that. And come to find out, like, I do believe it's been a while since I touched on this one point, so it could be a little bit inaccurate, but I do believe that he was a relative newcomer to crypto. and so he learned it real quick, relatively in the past few years, and then he started teaching it, right? And I guess that was all part of maybe the reason why we got lulled into a little bit of sense of security that he is one of us. But I don't think he ever was, to be honest. Now that we're looking back on it, we just kind of got rug pulled by the government on that one, you know?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good way to put it. I feel rug pulled. I feel rug pulled on that.
Well,
But
and I've been passionately following this stuff for years, since 2016, the Howey test and all this. What is a security? What isn't a security? And being very careful with that stuff. And there's a former Fed chair or someone in the Fed who, of course, left the Fed, went and worked within the Ethereum ecosystem, and it also themselves said like it's all it's cool, it's good, it's not a security, yada yada yada. And now they're backtracking and changing their mind on that stuff to create uncertainty. And it's what the FCC is up to is ridiculous to me to these days.
So I saw you posted a thing about Wyoming in the chat there. I think Wyoming, isn't Wyoming where they also have some very DAO friendly laws? I believe.
I know that
I
City
do believe
DAO
it's
is based
the
there.
most DAO friendly in the US. Yeah, they actually allow you to create a business entity using a DAO. It's basically like incorporating, but instead of a corporation, you're forming a DAO. And I think that's really cool. Yeah. But, it comes with pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
And from my understanding, Vermont allows the same thing. Like I spoke to a DAO that is based essentially out of Vermont, but there's a formal LLC that's just incorporated as a DAO.
Yeah, I think we need to see more state level regulations like that, laws like that, and look for the states that are friendly to crypto. I thought that was always interesting. I've been pretty active in the DeFi space and finding a state that had a lot of provisions in its laws that kind of support the implementation of DAOs. And sure, there's good and bad to that. But now they're also looking at some other potentially positive regulatory stuff. So really kind of leading the way there. Maybe worth reading up on if anyone is working in the space and looking for somewhere to incorporate a business entity or set up a DAO or something else. Because
I would just say I think there really needs to be more guidance from the federal government about how these tokens, DAO governance tokens, will be treated. Because there's none, and I've spent a good amount of time researching whether a Wyoming DAO LLC, which is the DAO entity in Wyoming, is a form of LLC, or I've been told like a Colorado collective organization is a better approach for a DAO, which that's the entity that Buffacorn Ventures uses, which is the DAO that operates ETH Denver. And I hadn't heard about Vermont, but it's very difficult to navigate as like a small organization, and you have to rely on advice from lawyers. And ultimately, there's just no clear guidance about whether your DAO token is going to be a security, and if you're successful, you're going to get in trouble later. So
True.
I think there really needs to be some federal guidance, but even within the having different state options is cool that states are trying to support these organizations. And like Colorado, I know accepts cryptocurrency for payments, tax payments, I think, and fee payments, but it also creates more work for someone who's trying to start one of these organizations and has to kind of try and go figure out which state might be the best to start in, and will that impact whether or not the SEC is going to come after them later. And it's a mess. The whole thing is giant.
Well, and who knows how much it helps if the SEC wants to come after you as a security, but your state is explicitly saying by their laws you're not a security and you did everything by the book. Like Wyoming has those laws to explicitly define.
But it's still at the federal level murky, right?
Yeah. And I wonder if enough states, and I don't know, but I wonder if enough states doing this stuff and then pushing back against the federal level. Like, I know there are things that states can
I
do.
mean,
They can
that's
just,
certainly how marijuana legalization
yeah.
has played out.
Yep.
So that maybe that's our best hope, because the federal government is clearly not going to do anything not to make this situation more clear, it seems like. So maybe that's our last best hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I always think of when I think about something kind of parallel to what we're hoping to achieve here, which is just a kind of organic grassroots movement at the state level, at the local level, like we saw with marijuana and legalization in so many states. And, part of it is these states realizing a lot of profit from it. And maybe that's the same thing we need with crypto. Maybe we need to just see more integration into businesses or state governmental functions like paying taxes. The more utility it has and the more money it has, the more the federal government might say, hey, I like that. I'll support that. I want the money. So it's time for the Q&A. It's our favorite or least favorite. I don't know. I never asked you guys. I dig it. So Q&A.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So let's look through the chat on both sides. Actually, I don't know if we moved the stage chat up. I don't think we on Discord side. Yeah, it's buried. Got to move it up next time. All right. Let's see. What did I mean by fair price? So I was talking about that. Yeah, I don't know that I would call that fair price. Yeah, maybe I threw in an extra word there. Basically, I was just saying, is Bitcoin, Bitcoin at 13K, do you like it at 13K? How do you feel about it if we do the Bitcoin relative to the M2 money supply? And that would indicate something like 13K in 2017 numbers. I feel like people would feel a different kind of way about where we are in the cycle. And so it's food for thought. And given how much the money supply, I think it grew by like 40% in the past couple of years, maybe more. It's looking over the longer time frame. I mean, for all of time, that's a big change to the market dynamics. Yeah, go on stage. Yeah, Dopal, you should come on stage sometime, man. You always have good questions. I don't think we have an answer. What is most profitable to mine? We've talked about it. Is it Raven Coin one of them that's been decent consistently?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't even begin to tell you where like all the different ETH proof of work. Notice how no one's talking about it anymore.
Oh, yeah. We didn't talk about it at all, but I have not sold mine yet.
Same
I
here.
haven't. Yeah, I didn't touch mine. I don't even know how to look at it. I'll be honest, I haven't taken the time to look at it at all.
Oh my gosh, it says right now on what to mine, if you have an old AMD card, Feather Coin is the most profitable coin to mine. That's
I haven't heard that in a long
Wow.
time.
Yeah. And then Firo, Raven Coin's up there. You can go to whattomine.com and pick whatever kind of graphics card you have, and it'll tell you what is like short-term profit most suited. But nothing is profitable here, actually. I mean, like, everything is negative. So good luck if you have video cards. I mean, Monero's CPU mine, but it's never profitable because you're competing against people with like no electricity or botnets or whatever. So mining is not in a great place right now, huh?
Yeah, I would agree. And the social sentiment around it too, because this generation is very environmentally conscious, and even if we believe there's more complexity to the issue than that, it's always a hot topic. But no, that's good advice, that website. So here's a question. The future of Cosmos. I think this is true for any active project in the space. They're still building, they're still developing. I put Cosmos up there as one of the leading inner blockchain technologies, bridging effectively. There's definitely a big future in that when someone really gets something in place that works well. So take that as you will. I don't know. You guys, I mean, you could bring up other ones like Polkadot, for example, has a lot of that technology as well. But where the space goes in the future, I mean, it could go any number of directions. Let's see. And if you guys see any questions, just jump in. I'm just going down.
I see a comment here where this was about the using crypto or using small payments for messages like tweets and things like that. The free users are the product. And this is from Sweepy on the Reddit comment. My plan would be you can pay to add features to a tweet, either simple, better placement in feeds or even data reporting. Want to know how many people viewed your tweet and what their age, economic status, gender is, you pay. The users are already used to the trade data for service model. We need to monetize the users who are themselves monetizing the platform. I get where you're coming from there. I think I'm like, okay, I'm tired of being someone's data cow. Everything I do, everything on all over the internet is download my app, sign up, sign in, and I'm tired of being milked for my data. So I'd rather have pay a fraction kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That's just personally.
Yeah. I feel that way too, but there's a lot of the younger generation that don't feel that way, or perhaps even don't even know what it was like before everything was, Google, Facebook.
Oh Lord, yeah.
And so that's a whole different topic, but I think there would still be demand for paid alternatives if it got rid of ads, if it got rid of the tracking of everything you do in there.
Yeah.
Dopo, I don't know if this is a reference to, are you into OPP? OPP was actually a rap song from like the early 90s, and I try not to sound old on this podcast, but yeah, anyways, I don't know if that's a reference to that. So OPP, someone asked what that was. If you didn't catch it earlier, it's Operation Pre-Punk. You can search it in Twitter or Reddit, probably Twitter. I don't know how much is on Reddit about that. We always get these kind of generic questions, though. What tips would you recommend futures traders, day trading, beginner? This is good. I think when we do these tips, we just do one per person. Keep it simple. Mine will be trade on paper. Don't do real trading with real money first. I think it's good to do fake trading. They have simulated trading apps that you can use on most of the major exchanges, or heck, just write it down on a piece of paper. It doesn't matter. Keep it simple and just practice trading for a while before you actually put real money into it. What do you guys think?
Personally, I'm not super into trading, just getting back into crypto trading back and forth. So the principle behind a future, correct me where I'm wrong here, is that you're trying to call a very long term, like the state of something, essentially. Is that fair, Poppy?
Not necessarily, I think, especially like high leverage crypto trading. It's my advice would be send a couple $100 to Bybit or BitMEX and trade at 50 or 100x leverage and watch how fast you lose your money, and then, and then maybe try a little bit more at lower leverage. But it's really gambling. Anything over 2 or 3x, maybe 5x leverage, you're getting rapidly into gambling.
Well, with my asking this question, this will tell you how much you should listen to my answer. What's a future?
It is, at a fundamental level, you're correct. Like a futures contract originated for commodities, so that, farmers can buy futures for feed for their cattle and lock in a price in the future, right? And then people trade these contracts on the secondary market. But now there's perpetual futures contracts that never expire, and longs pay shorts or shorts pay longs depending on whichever one there's more of. And it adds liquidity to the whole market, but when people are trading at high leverage, it's really just gambling at this point.
Yeah, the whole market, in my opinion, is so so tainted by all kinds of outside factors that it'd be hard for me to get into it. So yeah, if I were dedicated on getting into it, it would be a rinse and repeat theory, like Poppy suggested, essentially. Here's my theory on what should work, what I can do, try it, look at the result, rinse and repeat. That's the only tried and true thing. You're not going to get around effort, essentially.
Yeah. There's just a lot of complexity when it comes to, I mean, you threw a lot of terms out, Jack Barry, you threw a lot of terms out. You said future traders, day trading, beginner. Each of those can be their own unique thing. And there's just so many layers of complexity to that. You really got to build a strong fundamental understanding of the space, about the market, about the tools you're using, about charts and analysis. The people that do professional day trading, either trial and error over many years in most cases, or they studied this kind, some similar things in school, finance, banking, whatever it may be. Most successful traders aren't the kind of people just sitting here hanging out in crypto, drinking a Red Bull and, doing whatever it is we all do, being degens all day. So really, you got to put a lot of effort in. You might even have to read a few books if you want to be long-term successful. I mean, that's just my thought, my position.
Yeah. But to me, crypto is the easy play because depending on the kind of project you're getting behind, because essentially, at least the way I approach it, I'm betting on state and government incompetence. To me, that is a guaranteed safe bet. And so absolutely, I'll make that investment.
Yeah. Trading spot, swinging spot. I mean, that's probably the lowest risk proposition. Living Dracula is asking, how do you think the rise in the dollar index will affect Bitcoin? And we've talked about this a lot. We even talked about it on this episode, but you're right. In general, there's an inverse correlation between the DXY and risk assets, in particular crypto, which is exceptionally volatile relative to things like equities, commodities. But given that Bitcoin's currently demonstrating a good bit of strength against the insane rally of the DXY, I'm not really sure how to respond at this point. If the market continues to defend this level between 17, 19K, and say the DXY peaks at 120, if it does, that would be extremely bullish to me. But in general, I wouldn't get super bullish until we see a prolonged decline of the Dixie. It needs to drop more, and it needs to drop over a period of time. These short drops like we have now probably are just going to be exactly that. They're probably just going to be a retracement until we see a pivot from the Fed, until we see the European Central Bank kind of muster some strength, or maybe until Russia in the Ukraine see sort of a drawdown in the conflict. Until those things happen, I don't think the dollar is going to stop. That's just me speculating, though. No one really knows. I know. What do you guys think?
I don't know. How do we know the dollar's doing good and everything else isn't just doing bad? Because I know I'm having to spend a lot more to get less these days.
Yeah, I mean, I largely agree with both of you guys, but I also, it feels like things are kind of leveling off, and hopefully by early next year, there's some kind of ceasefire or at least gridlock between Russia and Ukraine, and it's kind of not, obviously the situation's not going to be resolved, but at least more stable. I'm always optimistic though, so I think early next year things will be looking much better.
Yeah, that would be nice. I'll be optimistic with you too. I mean, I don't really have any. I would just say anecdotal, gut feeling. I think things could turn. Two more questions, and then I think we'll wrap it up. One is asking about Chainlink staking, and I know this is something a lot of people have been waiting for a long time. People love staking in crypto. It feels like free money. I would just my standard advice in the case of staking is do a little bit of calculations, do a little bit of research, and understand that staking in most cases is going to dilute the supply or dilute the value of your tokens. So you're competing against whatever rate of emissions you're getting versus how much is hitting the market and being dumped, which a lot of people, they get those staking rewards and they just immediately sell them. And that does two things. One, that puts sell pressure on the token, and two, that increases the supply of the token, which also dilutes the value. And so you're always kind of combating those two things. Staking is usually better as a long-term proposition and better entered into during a bear market on kind of like a cycle low. So if you can nail some of these strong staking projects, like, popular ones are like Cosmos, Algo, Tezos, Chainlink, I'm sure will be when it does, ETH, you nail that at the right time in the bear market, and you might have a nice healthy profit in the next bull market. But don't be surprised if it goes down before then.
Could I add something to that, Poppy? And it's important to point out, because I always grew up as an Austrian and like, in the inflation is bad, kind of stuff. And my take on that has become a little more nuanced in that you have schemes that are set up as nominal inflation, to where the chain can be inflating by, let's say, if a chain inflates by a fixed amount every block, then the percentage by which it inflates year over year actually goes down, as relative to the entire supply. And if you have a staking model where only the people that are actually staking get part of that reward, essentially, long story short, so I'm not being long-winded here, the chain can be inflating by roughly, let's say, 4.5%, but you're actually getting 6% in rewards because some people are not staking their coins. So you could actually be beating the inflation in that term. To me, that's like, if I'm going to do staking, that's the model to go with personally that I like. So that if I keep my coin staked, I get the best of all worlds. I get some increase on my coins, but I don't have. I'm increasing my coins greater than the amount of the coins are being diluted. If I'm going to go with staking, that's the model that I like. I just wanted to clarify, because not a lot of people know that you can have a inflation model where you're actually beating the chain emissions.
Yeah, that. Oh, good.
I was just going to say, I know absolutely nothing about Chainlink staking or their, tokenomics or whatever you want to call it, but I think Ethereum is kind of at least the first really big example where there's staking and you can earn a 3 or 4% per year Ethereum reward. And it should be close to 0% or negative inflation even, right? Like, I don't think, especially on a chain that has significant amount of traffic that we've seen, I think for like, Cardano and Tezos and other typical staking systems, Avalanche, like there's some built-in inflation of like 4 to 8% or something, right? And I've heard Algorand is like 30%, but I mean, Ethereum should be close to 0% or even negative inflation, right? Assuming that activity stays relatively high.
Yeah, I'm curious how they're achieving that in terms of burning how are they deflating as they stake or as that goes?
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
It's based on demand. So as long as there's a sufficient level of demand and use of the chain, then it kind of holds that deflationary state.
Oh, so they're burning the fees essentially.
Yeah,
I think it's a part of the fees. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I know with Tezos, what we do is we inflate by roughly 42.5 Tezos every block, and so that's a fixed amount. And so year over year, the percentage by which of the over max, then we don't actually. It's not like it's inflating. The percentage by which it inflates actually goes down year over year. And I think we burn the storage fees. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So on the Chainlink stuff, if you just Google like Chainlink staking calculator, you're going to find different sites out there. And there's a lot of information. Chainlink is one of the more popular protocols, is the market leading oracle in the space. So I'm sure it's going to be pretty spicy. I might even have to pick up a little bit of Link, just relive my glory days as a Link Marine. Feels like so long ago. Maybe
seems like it's always been a pretty respectful project, Chainlink. Yeah.
I don't know.
Tell me more.
I feel like it has it has some roots that may not be quote unquote respectable, like Link Marines coming from 4chan, as Poppy alluded to there.
Yeah, no, I'm not part of that, but I did enjoy the ranking system coming as a prior Army guy. I thought that was cool. But yeah, in general, though, it does have a pretty solid position in the market. I don't think there's any other Oracle nearly on its level right now in terms of.
Sure, I would definitely agree
Yeah.
with that statement.
And there's a video. I don't know if you guys. There's a video of what's his name, the Chainlink founder. Is it Sergey? I think it's him. It looks like him.
Yeah,
Fighting
getting in a
outside
fist fight.
McDonald's.
Yeah. That's like
Yeah.
peak bear market shit right there.
He ran into a competing Oracle. He just couldn't take it. No more trash talking. All right. Link parachain soon. I'm gonna have to look at that. Maybe we'll talk about it next time. Thank you, MLZX. I think for the last one, this I like. Actually, this is a good one to end on. Do you guys? This is from Chris 2006 GR. Do you guys think that Bitcoin will reach 1 million someday? $1 million per coin?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Poppy?
Do you think Bitcoin will reach $1 million per coin someday?
Me personally, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm never certain about anything, but I think at this point it's at 50-50 or higher. Like, whereas 5 years ago it was maybe a few percent probability. I think at this point we're approaching or above 50% probability.
Yeah, in the long run, I think crypto has reached that the point where it's not going back in the tube. They're not stopping it. And in the long run, fiats are going to do what they always do historically since time immemorial. We've had fiats since the cuneiform days in Babylon. They always overinflate and collapse and blah 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 blah, and empire collapse and stuff. And so dollars going to zero, and essentially and implicitly, Bitcoin will hit 1 million at some point.
I think I'm with Jay Winterm. I think the odds are probably closer to 50-50. And I say it just because we are seeing a lot of interest institutionally, governmental levels in some level of trust of Bitcoin, and arguably potentially Ethereum. And I think that trust is going to extend to a lot more than those. It's just that those two, especially Bitcoin, is garnering a good bit of support at critical areas like even the U.S. government in the Eurozone and other places. So if it hits that inflection point and they governments need to start investing, if we hit that point where regulators kind of open the door to the elderly, to the boomer generation, pardon me. To the boomer generation who do hold the lion's share of wealth in the world. And I know there's some dissenting views on this, but I'm of the opinion that once they gain access, they're going to be interested in diversifying. I think their portfolio managers are going to be closer to our demographic and people who are increasingly interested in crypto. And so, I think $1 million is possible, but it's not certainly not a guarantee. And if I was a betting man, I would still be nervous betting on it at this stage. The next couple of years are going to be very telling in terms of the regulatory space and how all of that goes down.
Obviously, if you were betting 1-to-1 odds, that's not a good bet, within the next 10 years or whatever. But you can bet, you can buy a call option in the form of one Bitcoin spot ETF or whatever, right? And you have a lot of upside and limited downside. So I think it's a pretty, not financial advice, not a bad time to buy if you're interested in Bitcoin.
Well, and I don't know that it's going there in the next 10 years, but is it going to hit there at some point? In my opinion, sure.
Yeah, I like it. That's what I would say. The upside potential right now, even just in general terms, buying a Bitcoin, if you can get a Bitcoin, is pretty good. Downside's probably a lot less at this point, obviously, than the upside potential. And so, any final thoughts, comments from you guys?
do have a bit of news here. I'm following from the IRS case with the Proof of Stake Alliance. Where essentially this guy sued the IRS for the way they were handling staking taxes. And for the people who love staking, this is an important thing to follow. This is Josh Jarrett. He's No Hard Forks on Twitter. He says, update in my case against the IRS. The court has ruled that the IRS's offer of a refund for my 2019 taxes means there is no longer a case or controversy before the court and that the case must be dismissed. But this is not over. I plan to appeal to vindicate my rights. Way to go.
It's
So what was the IRS bringing the case against him about?
This actually originated from the Tezos community. That's who this guy's a part of, and we've been fighting for the way taxes are handled on staking for a long time now because they're treated as income, and there's precedent. And one of the lawyers in the ecosystem made this case and pushed it forward that based on the kind of organization an entity is, there is legal precedent going back a very long way that you shouldn't be taxed as income on staking rewards. And I can give you a link for.
And then it would just be. I mean, how would you have a cost basis for this?
It's not income. Basically, the argument is that, and there's legal precedent for this back in like the 30s, to where people can come together, pool their money, and then basically like distribute shares of the thing in lieu of like for doing services for the communal thing. Essentially, like I'm not a lawyer.
But then would it be like a dividend or how?
I'm not entirely sure there, like whether it wouldn't be taxed at all, or if it's a dividend or whatnot. But basically, what the argument is that you're just getting your own property back, and so I think they're trying to say it shouldn't be taxed at all. Which, hey, I'm absolutely all for. But so based on that legal precedent, this guy sued the IRS. And looks like he's doing good. Not out of the woods yet, but nice to see the progress.
I agree.
That's interesting. Yeah, I will take a deeper look.
Yeah, I'll try to get you guys the links for the case.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that more next week if we could. I think that's news that matters to a lot of us. And
absolutely, I will get everything together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of falls into that thing we were talking about earlier too, where one step at a time. Well,
it says here he says the argument is that it's not taxable income until you sell it. I guess is his argument. So it would still be taxable income, but you wouldn't realize that income on your tax returns until you sold it. Whereas now, like yes, if you're staking. From what I understand and the way that I filed my taxes in 2021 is coins that you stake, you treat as income immediately as soon as they come back into your wallet rate. And so I guess that's the distinction.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it makes more sense. It makes more sense that it wouldn't count until you sell it. To me, at least. All right. Well, gentlemen, and everyone listening, ladies, everyone. It's been a lot of fun. This was a great episode. I had a lot of fun on this one. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Hope you have a safe week trading, and we'll talk to everyone next week.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody. Later.